I am the president and founder of Carolina Retirement Planners, and with me is my daughter Sam Shakavich, Samantha Shakavich,
Hello, everybody.
my partner here in the business. And we also have somebody else new. If you've noticed here, we thought we'd use this
You.
opportunity to introduce the newest member of Carolina Retirement Planners. This is Jessica Sansone. She has joined us this Monday. This is her first. She is our new director of first impressions. If you come into the office or even dial in, you're likely to either see or talk to her, and she's taken over for Kristen, who has essentially been promoted. She's moving to a job as a customer care specialist, like Brenda, as we need more help. And so Jessica has replaced her. But what else do we have today, Sam, to talk about? Or who else is with us? I know our hidden.
We're not ready to move on. We also want to introduce, as always, with us every week, the wonderful, magical Amy Dresky, our director of client fun, who makes all of the magic happen behind the scenes. Hello, Amy.
Hi. I really feel like I've got some like crazy magic fan that's behind me because I always like fix my hair and I'm like, oh, it's all nice. And then I hit some buttons and I'm like, I go live. I'm like, what happened? What happened to my hair?
You're just there. You're just furiously making it happen. And the wind from your ferocious work, it's, just
The Facebook trolls come right out and mess your hair without you knowing,
Gremlins. Yeah, trolls, gremlins is something. I don't know. But
Well, I think
right,
you
Still
look fabulous.
good.
crazy
Yeah.
though. I don't get it.
Yes. Well, we're all very excited. We've actually been before we came on, we've been fighting behind the scenes because today is Great Poetry Reading Day, and all of us are avid poetry fans and all want to share with you our favorite poetry and all have been fighting for the chance to tell you about our favorite poets and read some favorite poems to you. So
Well, before we start going to poetry, I will remind you that we're going to talk about inversions today, how the interest rates kind of get all mixed up and how it often indicates that we're due for a recession. And we're going to kind of look at the actual history of how that turned out. I just want to, just in case you think this is going to be a whole poetry half hour, or we're hoping it would be a whole poetry half hour, we are going to talk about some financial stuff too. Don't forget it.
Maybe you can make the financial stuff rhyme.
Yeah,
Poetry.
maybe I could. I've got some.
It
Much
can
of my
rhyme like a dime. I mean, right? That's all I got. Sorry.
much of my poetry consists of limericks that I probably can't say on this public show. But
Dad, actually speaking of limericks, back when you were consulting and you were traveling all the time, you and I would email back and forth. I don't know if you remember this, but you and I would email back and forth, and we would email in the form of limericks. You would email me a limerick and I would sit there and think of a limerick and I would email one back to you.
there actually is a book. There is one between two famous authors, Isaac Asimov and the guy who used to do Speaking of Words, Cheney, that were called Limericks Too Gross. They each wrote a gross of limericks, mostly gross limericks, and they put it all into a book. I got to get a copy of that. I
don't think ours were very gross. I think I was a little young for that. I think actually my favorite limerick that I wrote you, I actually will forever remember it. I feel bad because I have so many great poems I want to share, but the one that I remember I was very proud of was, one day when I dressed up for school, I thought that I looked really cool. Someone gave me a tip that my pants had a rip, and then I felt like a big fool. So,
okay, that goes with, I used to play, I was at an auto harp festival, and the one was a beautiful harper named Doris wore clothes exceedingly porous. Though she played only chords, the boys never got bored with chorus after chorus from Doris. That's about the cleanest one I got.
That's the cleanest one you've got.
Yeah, that's the good one. But but actually, while we're doing it, we should give while she's here, we should give Jessica a chance to her poem.
Oh, it's not my poem. Robert
Well,
Frost wrote
your
wrote it.
favorite poem, you know.
Oh, it's not my favorite. It's
Yeah.
just the shortest one I know.
Okay, you're sure.
Let's see. It's called Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice.
Okay,
Wow.
that's a lot. That's a lot
It's not
more.
as much fun as the ripped pants limerick.
Probably more profound than most of mine too. But it's, good fun. Good fun.
Okay.
And as always, we love it when people chip in and say hi. Dan and Barb, who are here in Wilmington today, not in the mountains. They stopped by this afternoon. We had a good visit. They say hi. Linda says hi. Our own Jameson is here on and says hi. Bruce, it's good to hear from you. Yes, we did have a great party the other night. Nadine is here. The infamous Teresa is here. Alexandra is here. Sandy, do we know Sandy?
Yes, my
Yeah,
wonderful mom is here. Hi, mom.
My tolerant wife, my very tolerant, forgiving wife.
Very
Yeah.
tolerant and forgiving.
Lynn, it's good to see you as well. Heidi, we know well.
Uh-huh.
Sam's old classmate and now longtime friend.
He
Kay,
likes my poem.
Kay says hi, and so it's good to have all these visitors. Let us know you're here.
Now I'm gonna go watch it.
You can
From the
go,
other room.
yeah, you can watch that. Thank you. It's just good to introduce our newest member. And
So one other thing about poems before we move on to the the real depressing stuff is so I am a lover of all kinds of poetry, and this isn't actually my favorite period of poetry, but if we're talking about poetry reading, one of the really cool experiences I had was when I lived in Chapel Hill. In Carborough, they had a day, a Walt Whitman celebration day, and they read the entirety of Leaves of Grass. We performed the entirety of Leaves of Grass on the lawn of Weaver Street Market, and everybody had like their own stanza and would come up and read it, and it took an hour, so
do
long.
they hand samplers out?
Of grass? Oh, Dad, yeah. Well, I got to read a stanza too whenever I did it. So I did get to participate. And I just think that, and as I've grown older, I've become more and more in love with the Leaves of Grass. And actually, whenever I was younger, I used to post, your Whitman of the day. And I would take little snippets of my favorite pieces of Leaves of Grass and post it to my Facebook page.
Okay, but we need to do
All right,
we need
okay.
we need to do something here work-wise to talk about. And today we're talking about inversions. And what is an inversion? Well, let me get the right. There we go. So let's think about that. If we had, let's think if we were going to go buy a CD. Now, Sam, if I had a choice between 1-year CDs, say 3-year CDs, 5-year CDs, 7-year CDs, if this is the interest it paid, how much it paid, do you think I'd get more for a 3-year CD than a 1-year, or more or less for a 5-year than a 1-year? What would it typically look like?
You would typically get more interest the longer you held the CD.
Yeah, the longer you're willing to invest the money for, the more money people's usually going to pay you. And that's kind of the way with almost everything, Longer term things pay more than shorter things. certainly in most cases, if you go buy a government bond, a longer term bond, a 1-year bond, 2-year bond pays less than a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year bond, or maybe as we have them now, 30-year bonds. The weird thing is we sometimes see times when it goes the other way. And we actually get more money for short term. If we want to buy a short term investment, like a 1 year, we would get more money than we would normally get. We'd have to invest longer. This is what's called an inversion. So if you think about it, one way they look at inversions is they say, hey, if I got a 2-year bond versus a 10-year bond. Well, normally a 2-year bond, say, might pay you 2%, and a 3-year bond would pay you 3%. And so, actually, I should have done that opposite. But if I look at the difference between this, it's +2. In other words, if I go to 10 years, I get 2% more than if I get the 2-year.
2% more?
I'm sorry, 1%. Oh man, I'll tell you. Wake up, David. I'd get +1%. And sometimes, like recently, the 2-year might pay me something like 3%, and the 10-year might only pay me 2%. Now I got -1% difference. See? So I can do a calculation where I can go look at the bond rates over time, and I can actually plot how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have done that. And it's kind of fun to look at some, and there's something really kind of scary comes out of it. This is 1954 down here, and this is 2020, and you can see this blue line that goes across here is the 10-year bond minus the 2-year bond. And if it goes below 0 here, that means we have an inversion, that all of a sudden people are willing to pay more for the short-term bond than the long-term bond. And you know, a lot of people say, well, why is that? Why would someone want to give you a better deal on a 2-year than a 10-year or such? And the conventional wisdom is that they're worried about the long-term future. They think the money right now is better than it'll be in a few years. And so that's kind of one of the thoughts is it's people think something's going to happen. Now, on this same picture, you notice we have these dark bands here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't pick up the one I wanted, I don't think, but we have these dark bands here. Those represent recessions. What's the definition of a recession, Sam? How far does the market have to fall?
10%?
No, I think it's 20%. 10% is like I forget what they call it. Yeah, correction.
Sorry.
So these bands are periods of time where the market has fallen 20%. And it's kind of interesting because if you think about it, I had a inversion here, and shortly thereafter I had a recession. I had one here, I had one. I had one here, I had one. I had one here, I had one. You see, it's the conventional wisdom is before practically every recession we've had in the last like 70 years, we've had an interest rate inversion in the bond market. The one exception here it didn't happen is 1966.
All right. We've got one.
Yeah, so it's kind of.
It looks like it dipped right there in the 90s, right?
Yeah, it dipped here. In fact, let's take a look. In this one here was 1988, we had a recession, and 19 months later, or we had an inversion, and 19 months later, we had a recession. You can see they've actually shown us the period, the difference between when the inversion, when the interest rates went hit topsy-turvy, and when we had a 20% drop in the market. And it was
So
17
Dad, this is why I was confused about what you're asking me. We were corrected, and this is correct. A bear market is when it goes 20% down. A recession is 2 quarters of negative GDP growth.
Oh, okay. You caught me. Okay. So anyway, you can see it varied anywhere from 10 to 22 months. Remember, in 2005 we had this inversion, and you remember in 2007 we began that big fall of 2008, that big recession that we had. So there's this kind of some pretty good correlation between them, This is the one that occurred most recently. It was the last time, until this year, the last time we had a inversion was 2019. Do you remember where we were when that happened? Or that in 2019 there was an inversion. We were in Chicago at a conference. I remember we were at an AE Wealth conference at Chicago, had some great speakers, and we were all talking about how we just had this inversion. And strangely enough, in 2020, with the COVID crash, we had a crash. Now, whether that inversions don't necessarily they don't cause things. It's more like they're a predictor. You probably know people that, when their knee hurts, they know that tomorrow it's going to rain. It's kind of like, for some reason, this inversion seems to kind of say, the problems are probably coming up. I had my doubts about it till I started looking really good at this data. I don't know if in the case of 2020, it certainly didn't cause COVID, or maybe, I don't think it, but maybe other things were in the works anyway that might have caused something to happen then. This here is the one we just had happen in the last few weeks. So are we in for something? I don't know. This is again 2019. We had a one inversion. It wasn't a real big one. It wasn't like it. Some of these went down 1-2% changes, but this was just a bump almost. But there were actually 2 that year, so it was kind of interesting. And I thought, while we're at it, since we're here and I got the iPad out, we're going to have some fun. This is CD rates. We might just ask ourselves, how have other things happened over time? This is CDs. You can see back in 2010, CDs were paying 2%. Now they're down to, less than, around 0.5%. If you look at the same CD rate chart from 1984 to now, it's even more interesting. Back there in 84, you could get 10, 11% for rates, and it dropped down again to next to nothing. And so while we're at it, let's look at mortgage rates. This is from the Fed. Back in 1981 or so, you could get mortgages cost you 17%. Then they dropped recently to less than 3%, and we've just seen that bump up. So a little bit on
Are we back up
inversions.
to 5 here on mortgage rates?
We're back up to 5 now. We just hit 5% again.
Wow.
So now I don't know if this inversion we just had is impending doom, but boy, these things make me think. Now, the other thing, if you read all the stuff, nobody really knows. It isn't like you should move everything to bonds, because we don't know when it's coming, how big it'll be. And bonds have been going down as interest rates go up. But it just tells you one of the reasons we build portfolios and we have offense and defensive money like we have is because, man, these things happen, and we need to be ready to watch out for it. So So that's a little bit here. We can get off the nitty gritty stuff here. I got to spend at least 10 minutes on it or so. So uh, uh, so what poetry or what we have a couple we have a drawing to come here in a minute or two. But yes, Sam, do you have any other poetry you want to share?
Well, now that you've thoroughly depressed us about the inversion of the yield curve and our dismal CD rates and our raising mortgage rates, I
We're all like boohooing in our whiskey, or my truly.
I don't know how to pivot gracefully from that, Dad.
Flat.
Well, I guess it makes me think of I had taken a few pieces of well, okay, here's something interesting about one of my favorite poets, or one of the poets that I really enjoy, is William Blake. He is a poet from the Romantic period, and he wrote, it's actually a pretty depressing work. That's the Songs of Innocence and Experience, and it goes on in one piece.
Happy poems.
Oh, I have plenty of happy poems, but this is like a little cool thing is if you ever can pick up an actual illustrated version of this. He was an engraver, and he would actually engrave all of the works. The poem is engraved into these slabs, and there's art in all of them, but he would engrave everything backwards and then color it and stamp it, but he did everything backwards. And so they're actually, it's the poetry is actually pretty depressing, because a lot of if you're talking about the sublime, a lot of it's about the loss of it as you get older, and trying to capture that innocence again. But it's actually really beautiful. If you ever can pick up a Songs of Innocence and Experience and look at what he did, it's all hand etched and backwards.
It's something to reflect upon.
You are so punny.
I am.
Funny.
So some of my favorite, some of the pieces of Whitman that I had pulled out were just a few snippets that were short, he says, what is that you express in your eyes? It seems to me more than all the print that I have read in my life. He was very romantic.
I was thinking more like, flashed all their sabers bare, flashed as they turned in air, charging an army while all the world wondered, plunged through the battery smoke right through the line they broke, while Cossack and Russian, reeled from the saber stroke, they rode back, but not the 600. That's a more,
well, that's a very masculine.
Yeah, it's a masculine. None of this wishy-washy, poems. It's like
I like
the charge of the charge of the Light Brigade was
I know it's you've recited it to me on many occasions.
Yeah. But we're almost out of time. Maybe I'll break out and I hope you all enjoyed it. Hey, who is the Oracle of Omaha?
Buffett.
Warren Buffett. Everybody probably knows Warren Buffett. So, I'm thinking, since we have had a relatively depressing one here, surprisingly, I think next Thursday we are going to do the sayings of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett has a lot of really cool sayings. They're amusing, educational, probably not terribly depressing. Or not terrible, so we're gonna have a fun one. So come back next Thursday for the sayings of Warren Buffett. I promise you, we'll have some fun stuff to think about to come out of that. Things like never ask a barber if you need a haircut. Anyway, who's going to win this time?
Well, I don't know yet. We're about to find out. So
Let's find out. Let's
if
find
it's
out.
your first time here, every week we raffle off 2 bottles of wine delivered directly to your door from Fermental Bottle Shop. And in order to get into my drawing, all you have to do is, if you are a member of Facebook, you just click that you are coming to the Facebook event when you see it on our page each week. If you invite a friend, we'll give you an additional entry. And if you are on our email list and you see that email come across, if you respond to that and answer Amy's question, or you just say, enter me into the wine drawing or whatever you'd like, a future topic or question you have, we'll get you in here too. If you forward that email to a friend, you've got to let us know you've done it, but we'll get you in here a second time as well. So,
Drum roll, drum roll.
our winner today of 2 bottles of wine is, oh, gotta find a place to put this down. Beverly and Ray C.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Congratulations, Beverly and Ray. You are our wine winners this week. To everybody who did not win, please continue to enter. We love to give away wine, and we'll continue to do so. And I do have a poem to send us out on.
All right.
And it is by William Butler Yeats, one of my favorite Irish poets. It's called A Drinking Song. And so wine comes, I'm not drinking wine. I wish I was, but I don't have it. Wine comes in at the mouth and love comes in at the eye. That's all we shall know for truth before we grow old and die. I lift my glass to my mouth. I look at you and I sigh. Cheers, everybody.
Excellent. Excellent.
Ah,
See you
that
next
was
week,
beautiful.
everyone. Have a great weekend. Come
Oh,
back
yeah.
for the sayings of Warren Buffett next week. Bye-bye.
Sounds good. Okay, wait. Can we play Jimmy Buffett in the background? Well, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, bye.
We can
Bye.
cover all the Buffets.
All the Buffett.
Maybe
See you
next
next week.
Pick the right one.
Okay.
Have some intro music.
Yeah, why not?